I went to my daughter's house for lunch, smiling with a gift in hand. She glared and yelled, "You're not invited." Can you believe the audacity? My own daughter, slamming the door in my face after everything I've done for her. I stood there, a perfectly wrapped box of her favorite artisanal chocolates, feeling like a lead weight in my hand. The smile I'd worn all morning crumbling into a look of utter bewilderment and hurt. Was I wrong to expect a modicum of respect, a shred of decency, from the child I raised? Tell me, would you have stood there and taken it? Or would you have fought back against such a cruel dismissal? It all started, I suppose, about 2 years ago, when Sarah, my only daughter, first met Mark. She was 28 then, a bright, ambitious young woman working in graphic design, and had always been incredibly close to me. We'd weathered a lot together, just the two of us, after her father passed away when she was only 10. I'd poured my heart and soul into raising her, ensuring she had every opportunity, every advantage I could possibly provide. We had our disagreements, of course, as any mother and daughter do, but they were always minor, always resolved with love and understanding. Our Sunday lunches at my place were a sacred tradition, filled with laughter, updates on her life, and sometimes a comforting shoulder for her to lean on. Then Mark came along. He was charismatic, no doubt about it, with a quick wit and a seemingly successful career in real estate. Sarah was smitten from the moment she met him at a mutual friend's barbecue. I was happy for her, truly I was. I wanted her to find love, to build her own life. When she first introduced him to me, I was cautiously optimistic. He seemed charming, perhaps a little too charming, but I attributed that to nerves. He made a point of complimenting my home, my cooking, and even my outfit, all with a practiced ease that, in hindsight, felt a bit rehearsed. Over the next few months, Sarah became completely absorbed in their relationship. Our Sunday lunches started to become less frequent, then less consistent. She'd cancel last minute, sometimes with a vague excuse about Mark needing her, other times simply saying she was busy. I tried to be understanding. New love, I told myself, it often takes over everything. But slowly, subtly, I started noticing changes in Sarah herself. She began dressing differently, adopting a more edgy, fashionable style that wasn't quite her. Her conversations became dominated by Mark's opinions, Mark's work, Mark's preferences. When I gently suggested she might be losing herself a little in the relationship, she became defensive, accusing me of being jealous or unsupportive. It broke my heart, but I bit my tongue, hoping it was just a phase. Then came the house. Mark, ever the real estate mogul, convinced Sarah they needed a bigger place, a grander statement of their combined success. He presented it as a joint venture, but I knew Sarah was the one with the significant savings, the stable inheritance from her father that I had meticulously managed for her until she turned 25. She'd always been prudent with money, but Mark's influence seemed to override all her sensible instincts. They bought a beautiful, sprawling house in a newly developed, upscale neighborhood. It was far more than they needed, and the mortgage payments, even with Sarah's significant down payment, seemed astronomical. I voiced my concerns, reminding her of the importance of financial security, but she just waved them away. "Mom, Mark knows what he's doing. This is an investment." The housewarming party was a lavish affair, funded almost entirely by Sarah, I later found out. Mark was the beaming host, taking all the credit for the exquisite decor and the catered food, while Sarah, looking exhausted, flitted around trying to keep everyone happy. That's when I truly started to see the cracks. I overheard him making a disparaging comment about her choice of wine, then later, a condescending remark about her career, implying his was far more significant. Sarah just laughed it off, but I saw a flicker of something in her eyes, a shadow of the old Sarah, that worried me deeply. Things escalated when they announced their engagement. I was thrilled, of course, for my daughter's happiness, but there was a strange undercurrent. Mark insisted on a very specific, incredibly expensive ring that he claimed was a family heirloom. He'd found at a jeweler's he happened to know. Sarah was radiant, showing it off to everyone, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I asked her about the wedding plans, eager to help, to be involved. Mark, however, had taken over. He had a vision, he said, a grand event that would showcase their status. He dismissed all of Sarah's more intimate, personal ideas. When I offered to contribute financially to the wedding, Sarah demurred, saying Mark had it all under control, and that they preferred to keep things simple and elegant. Simple and elegant, in Mark's dictionary, meant an exclusive resort, a designer gown, and a guest list meticulously curated to impress his business associates. My friends, my family, even some of Sarah's closest college friends, were subtly pushed aside in favor of Mark's network. The wedding itself was beautiful, but it felt cold, impersonal. Sarah, my vibrant, bubbly daughter, seemed subdued, a little like a puppet on a string, going through the motions. I tried to talk to her, to ask if she was truly happy, but she just smiled vaguely and changed the subject. The final straw, before the door-slamming incident, came a few months after the wedding. Sarah, who had always been a fantastic cook, mentioned to me on the phone that Mark had told her cooking was too rustic for their new lifestyle. He preferred her to order in or use a meal delivery service. This was the same daughter who used to love baking cookies with me every Christmas. It was a small comment, but it was another chip in the foundation of the daughter I knew. I tried to reach out to her more, inviting her for coffee, suggesting we go shopping, anything to rekindle our connection. Her responses grew colder, her excuses more frequent. Our calls became shorter, punctuated by long silences, and a sense that she was eager to get off the phone. I worried constantly, my heart aching for the daughter I felt I was losing. I suspected Mark was behind it, subtly alienating her from her past, from me. He wanted her all to himself, or rather, he wanted her resources and her unwavering attention. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. I saw my daughter drifting further and further away, manipulated and controlled by a man who, in my opinion, didn't truly love her, but rather loved what she could provide. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have kept trying to reach out, to gently nudge her back, or would you have taken a more drastic approach to try and open her eyes? I knew I couldn't just sit back and watch my daughter disappear. The not invited incident was the wake-up call I needed. That day, standing on her doorstep, feeling the sting of her rejection, I decided I had to act, and act decisively. The next day, I didn't call her. Instead, I drove directly to the lawyer's office. I had kept meticulous records of every significant financial gift I had given Sarah over the years, beyond just small presents. This included a substantial sum for her college education, a down payment on her first apartment before she met Mark, and critically, the final chunk of her inheritance from her father, which I had transferred to her 2 years prior, around the time she met Mark. I explained the situation to the lawyer, expressing my deep concern that Mark was financially exploiting Sarah and isolating her from her family. I wanted to understand my options, not necessarily to reclaim the money, but to understand if there was any legal leverage I could use to protect my daughter, to force her to see what was happening. The lawyer listened patiently, then confirmed my worst fears. With the inheritance money, while transferred to Sarah's account, I had the paperwork to show its origin, and a strong argument that Mark had unduly influenced her in its spending, particularly on the new house. However, directly challenging it could be a messy, drawn-out legal battle that might further estrange Sarah. We discussed other options, specifically how to document Mark's increasingly controlling behavior and financial decisions. My lawyer advised me to start gathering concrete evidence of Mark's manipulation. This meant I needed to talk to people, to find out what others had observed. I started discreetly reaching out to friends of Sarah's who had also been pushed away, even some of Mark's acquaintances. What I uncovered was horrifying. Mark had a history of charming women with assets, marrying them, and then gradually siphoning off their money before moving on. There were rumors of previous marriages that ended in messy divorces where the women lost significant portions of their wealth. He was a professional con artist, and my daughter was his latest target. Armed with this information, and with the lawyer's guidance, I crafted a meticulously detailed letter. It wasn't a confrontational, angry letter. It was factual, presenting the evidence I had gathered about Mark's past, outlining his financial schemes, and detailing how his behavior had systematically isolated Sarah from her support system. I included copies of financial documents, screenshots of online articles about his previous exploits, which had been carefully buried by his PR, but my lawyer found them, and statements from people who had witnessed his controlling behavior. Instead of sending it directly to Sarah, I sent it to her office. I knew Mark likely monitored her personal emails and even her phone. By sending it to her professional address, I increased the chances she would see it without his immediate interception. I enclosed a note with it, simply saying, "Sarah, please read this. I love you, and I only want you to be safe and happy. If you need me, I'm here." It was a terrifying gamble. I didn't know if she'd read it, if she'd dismiss it, or if it would push her further away. For 2 agonizing days, I heard nothing. Then, late one evening, my phone rang. It was Sarah, but her voice was different, fragile, broken. She was crying, a raw, guttural sound that tore at my heart. She had read the letter. Mark had been away on a business trip, giving her the window to find it and process its contents without his watchful eye. She told me she had spent the last 48 hours researching, cross-referencing, and making calls. Everything I had written was true. He had lied about his past, about his family heirlooms, about his financial stability. He had been slowly draining her accounts, making investments in his name with her money, and had even taken out a second mortgage on their house, using her as a co-signer without her full understanding, to fund another one of his failing ventures. The climax was a tearful confession from Sarah. She was pregnant, and she was terrified. She realized Mark didn't love her. He loved her money and the image she helped him project. She was trapped, vulnerable, and utterly heartbroken. I didn't hesitate. "Come home, Sarah," I said. "Right now, I'm here for you, no matter what." That night, she packed a small bag, taking only essentials and her laptop, and left the house while Mark was still away. She drove straight to my place, arriving in the early hours of the morning, a shadow of her former self. The next few months were a whirlwind. We immediately sought legal counsel for her. With the evidence I had provided, and Sarah's own testimony, her lawyer was able to initiate proceedings to annul the marriage on grounds of fraud, and to protect her remaining assets. The pregnancy made things incredibly complex, but it also fueled Sarah's determination to escape Mark's clutches for good. Mark fought back, of course, attempting to smear Sarah's character and mine, but the documented evidence was overwhelmingly against him. The legal battle was draining, both emotionally and financially, but we had each other. Sarah moved back in with me, slowly, painfully, rebuilding her life. She went back to therapy, reconnected with her old friends, and rediscovered her love for cooking and her passion for design. The baby, a beautiful little girl named Lily, arrived 6 months later, a beacon of hope and a symbol of Sarah's resilience. Mark eventually disappeared, facing multiple lawsuits from other women he had conned and the impending legal action from Sarah that would have exposed his entire modus operandi. Sarah was granted full custody of Lily, and while the financial damage was significant, she had salvaged enough to start anew. We picked up our Sunday lunches, only now there was a high chair at the table, and the sound of a baby's joyful gurgles filled the air. This whole mess taught me a profound lesson about a mother's intuition and the unwavering power of unconditional love. It's easy to judge from the outside, but when it's your child, you fight with every fiber of your being. I'm just so grateful Sarah finally opened her eyes and allowed me to help her. If you found yourself nodding along, maybe shedding a tear or two, please like this video if you were on my side and understood why I had to intervene. Subscribe for more stories like this, where real people navigate impossible situations. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I'll see you all in the next story.